people to know that there's nothing impossible. If you want it bad enough, you can go after it. And it takes a lot of work and a lot of effort, but it's not impossible. So you can be the change. If something bothers you in the world, you can be the change. You don't need to sit and wait for someone to create the change for you. For us, the highlight of 2021 was the listings across Whole Foods Canada. So that was big for us to be in Whole Foods and to be a brand that's in all their stores across Canada. So that was huge for Northwater for this year. And the goal is for this year to go into, we've got a lot of conversations happening with interested parties within Asia. So hoping to open the export market both to US and Asia as well, either 2021 or early 2022. We all want to make the world a better place. We all talk about the plastic waste and all kinds of waste around us. It's a very different statistic once you have to pay for it. We are the only ones in Calgary and I believe even in Western Canada with the equipment that we have that allows you to fill an aluminum bottle at this point. The life of a startup where you as a founder, CEO, a CFO, whatever your title is, you also are the person who's the janitor too. So, or the delivery person. I do a lot of deliveries myself. I do a lot of sales myself. So you end up wearing multiple hats because that's what you do in a startup. I don't think, you don't have the luxury to go get 100 people to start running your business for you. So you parcel out what you can where you feel that there's somebody else who can do the job better than you can or has, is a lot more skilled. And then you take on the rest of the roles that where you feel like you can save money because you can do it. The part we don't prepare ourselves for is what it takes from the hours that you put into building something or creating something. And that I don't know, no one can be prepared for it because nothing ever goes as planned. So it's that mentality and that mindset of being ready to take on the challenge. If it's someone, it's not for the faint-hearted, that's for sure. If you can't take what's thrown at you and make something out of it, there's no business. And no entrepreneurship journey goes as planned because you don't know what you don't know. The only thing that it takes really to go from an employee who makes a fixed salary and, gets bonuses to becoming an entrepreneur is a courageous heart.
Welcome to another inspiring episode of the Startup Impact. I am Shivi, your host for the show. And our today's guest is a really special one because we are going to talk about growth mindset and entrepreneurship with the woman who makes it all happen. She is the founder and CEO of Northwater, Saawan Logan. Saawan started her company Northwater just before the pandemic hit. And then there was no looking back. Because during the pandemic, when the world toppled down, the startups and the small businesses were in the challenging situation, her company was actually growing exponentially. And the answer is simple, what Saawan says. She says that the Northwater is for the conscious ones who do not just question what goes in their bodies, but who want to leave the planet in a better shape. Saawan intends to make Northwater a global brand and share her love for Canada with the world. So please help me in welcoming Saawan Logan, who tries to challenge the status quo, who tries to turn her dreams into reality with persistence, dream, and her super energetic nature. So please help me in welcoming Saawan Logan. Saawan, thank you so much for joining us on the show today. How are you today?
I'm great. Thank you, Shivi. Thanks for having me. It's such a pleasure to be speaking to you and to be a part of this.
Oh, Saawan, I still remember the first time when we jumped on the call and we had all the amazing laughs. At that point, I realized that we have a lot of common things to talk about, and I'm really honored to have you on the show. So thank you so much, Saawan, for coming today.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
So Saawan, tell me if I missed anything, because tell me more about your journey when you came to Canada, and where did you come from, and did you just move directly to Calgary, or did you go anywhere else and then you chose Calgary? How was it?
Sure. Yeah. So I was born in Fiji and I was raised in Fiji as well. And I lived in Australia for a few for a bit, not a very long stint, and then I moved to Calgary directly. So in Canada, Calgary was my first stop, basically. And I remember the year I came here, markets was sort of the global financial crisis had taken over the world, and so everybody was in a bit of a turmoil. And I came at a time when, there were job losses, but it wasn't the dynamic market it was a couple of years prior to that. And that was the start of my journey. A couple of years into living into Canada, I've started working in oil and gas, and just so ended my career within oil and gas as well, and then started North Water somewhat simultaneously. About around 2018 is when the dream for North Water started taking shape. And so basically from that, our journey started, and here we are a year into running our facility, a year into operations and sales, and still stuck in COVID. That hasn't changed. And yeah, it's been nothing but excitement since basically I landed. Lots of adjustments, no question about that. And obviously, as many people, like even yourself, when you move here from a warmer climate, what it's like. It's a shock to the system. It's a lot to kind of learn. Driving on the wrong side of the road, I should say.
I couldn't agree more with that, because when I moved to Calgary in 2019, and I'm glad you chose Calgary because I love Calgary. The beauty, the Rockies, and the mountains, like there was no going back from here. So, but what I wanted to know more, Sawan, is it's different when you choose a city for living, but it's different when you choose a city for your business.
Right. But the thing was, I think for us, it all came down to the same reasons you love Calgary, which is Alberta is home to some of the most beautiful mountains in the world. The Rockies, the Canadian Rockies, which spans from BC to Alberta within Canada. It's gorgeous. Well, with that also comes glaciers, and with that comes beautiful, pristine water. So, from a business perspective, if there's any place in the world that is clean, unpolluted, untouched, and just magnificent, it's the Canadian Rockies. So, it makes perfect sense to be in a place like Alberta, to be in Canada, and to choose Calgary to do business.
Right.
I don't see why anyone wouldn't want to be a part of that.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And that's a great reason why you chose your background picture. I'll just love it.
That's right. Yes. Yeah. It's one of my favorite artists, and is renowned for doing paintings of lakes in Alberta and also of prairie scenes. So, yes, indeed, it's a reflection of the color of our bottle that we have chosen, and it's one of the memories that stuck throughout my journey in Canada, and even when I came as a visitor as well. That visit to Lake Louise that every single tourist does, basically, who comes to Alberta. And the first thing you see is the lake, whether it's Moraine Lake or Lake Louise, and that color never leaves your mind, it never leaves your brain. So it's stamped. And I wanted North Water to be that color. I wanted North Water to reflect that picturesque blue that Moraine Lake, Lake Louise, and Pater Lake has, and for the world to experience that. And I'm hoping we've captured that definitely with our bottle and our product.
Yes, yes, and yes to all those things. So, Sawan, what you just talked about in your introduction, that when you came here, like, of course, we all choose to start our career with oil and gas. And at the moment when you moved, it was difficult time, but it started flourishing eventually. But then you decided from being an employee to an entrepreneur. You decided to be a founder for the North Water, and you started planting it from 2018, right?
That's right. Yeah.
So why did you transition your career from an employee where you were doing pretty good actually in your career to start into this roller coaster and go into this rabbit hole of entrepreneurship?
Yeah. So, when you think of starting your own business, when anyone talks about being, an entrepreneur, you never think of, goodness, it's going to be so much work, and what it's going to take. Somewhat that you're taking a risk, and you're putting all your savings online, and you won't get a salary for a period of time. You all know that. And I think that financial risk is something we can all somewhat prepare ourselves for. The part we don't prepare ourselves for is what it takes from a when the hours that you put into building something or creating something. And that I don't know, no one can be prepared for it because nothing ever goes as planned. So it's that mentality and that mindset of being ready to take on the challenge. If it's someone, it's not for the faint-hearted, that's for sure. If you can't take what's thrown at you and make something out of it, there's no business, and no entrepreneurship journey goes as planned, because you don't know what you don't know. And even if it's a tried and tested business, I still think every person has a very different experience, and that experience is going to will always mold how you go about conducting your journey or going through your journey. So the lessons, there's a ton of lessons, and those lessons are every day. The only thing that it takes really to go from an employee who makes a fixed salary and gets bonuses to becoming an entrepreneur is a courageous heart. Everything else, if you're courageous, I think everything else will follow.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm glad that you touched that point of mindset here, because because this is exactly what I wanted to know. That what was your mindset? What was your story with North Water? Why did you started it? It was completely different from what you were doing before. So getting into this venture, I mean, relate us. Why North Water? Why it was so passionate for you to go into this business?
Yeah, so the journey comes twofold actually. The first part of the journey was, being proud of being Canadian. That was the first part. So my business partner Linda and I are both immigrants to Canada, and it was trying to find something that we were passionate about in life that we could showcase to the world as well. And when I say passionate about, from a context of Canada as a country itself. So it was trying to find something that we could showcase to the world that was Canadian and was about our story, our journey, and our success coming from elsewhere, and showcasing our home to the rest of the world. So water became that fit, of course. But the real stories kind of started about, it was always at the back of our mind that, it'd be great to have delicious water, which we have tried and tasted while hiking and while being around in nature, the clean, crisp, cold drink that you get, and putting that out to the world to taste and try as well was one part of it. And that was a thought that we always had. What really gave the challenge of this dream a push was basically coming up with a solution that was going to end plastic waste. And so hence the plastic waste when it comes to single-use beverages, Coca-Cola leads that pack, and it's a lot of research and studies have shown that and continues to. And they're making headways to they're doing a lot of things to not be that company anymore, which is great. But there's still a lot of single-use plastic beverage containers that make all their way into the Pacific Ocean, where I'm from, in Fiji, where 75% of the fish has so much microplastics in them that they're not edible. It was finding a solution to that. Like, how do you end the the plastic waste that just keeps going into landfills and oceans, because there is no real recycling across the world that's standardized, that can take on the amount of plastic waste that's generated every day. Mm-hmm. Like Canada alone is, in 2016, only 4% of plastic that was introduced in Canada was recycled. That's a sad statistic. Between 4 to 6% is not a number you want to.
4%?
Yeah, it was a number between 4 and 6%. It wasn't exactly 4. It was, I believe, it was between 4 and 6. And then the rest of it was incinerated. The rest of it was incinerated. About 8% of it was incinerated from that number as well. And then whatever was left went into landfills and oceans, basically.
That's a great stat. We never knew that. So getting into this, okay, now I have a lot of questions from what you just shared. I'll try to piece it up and let me know if I forget anything, Saawan. So to start with, you decided to get into eco entrepreneurship.
That's right.
Talk about how different it is. What are some challenges that you're facing, or what are some push that people should get into this space? So talk about more about eco entrepreneurship, how different it is.
So, first of all, you have to look at what you're competing against. What is currently in your market? What dominates your market space? For us, in particular, our market space is dominated by plastic products. Plastic is very cheap to produce, hence there's lots of it. It's also we live in a disposable society where everything is single use. It's okay because it's so cheap that you can go get the next one. The need for you to reuse doesn't quite exist in the same way when something is so cheap. So now to make a shift, you're introducing something, a product that is way more expensive to begin with. So a bottle of plastic bottle that you see more commonly on shelves of water, that plastic can be anywhere between 2 to 4 cents or 5 cents to produce, depends on how large a player you are. If you're a large company, you may have much lower cost if you're Nestle, for example. So you're looking at a product that could be as low as 2 cents to produce to an aluminum bottle, which is what we have, which doesn't start for under 30 cents Canadian. So 30, 35 cents Canadian is your starting point, and that doesn't include the cap on it. So now you're going to put a cap on it, which is about another 10 cents Canadian on it. So, you're going from 2 cents to 40 cents just on raw material itself. You haven't put your product in it. You haven't paid for shipping. You haven't brought the product in yet. You haven't put labor in it, and you haven't done anything. So that alone tells you the cost of starting a journey of this nature. So now you not just have to pay more for a product, your raw material, but you also have to get the consumer mindset to be okay with that price differential.
Right.
Which is another big component of it, which is how do you get people to say, yeah, I'm okay to spend, $5, 50% more than I was to begin with, just to start the cost, not even like what you would be paying otherwise, right? Because of course the 2 cents, the bottle that costs 2 cents, 5 cents, 10 cents, you're not buying it for that price. As a consumer, you're paying about $2.50, $2.80 to buy that product. Now my product is about $1 more than that as a larger bottle, so it's at least an easy 50% more. So it's being an eco-conscious entrepreneur comes with a very huge cost, not just from my perspective of keeping the prices competitive, but also from the cost of educating your population group, pushing a product out there and still trying to keep your margins at least somewhat whole. And so, yeah, it's not, we all want to make the world a better place. We all talk about the plastic waste and all kinds of waste and around us. It's a very different statistic once you have to pay for it.
Yeah, no, I completely agree with that, Saawan. And in fact, what you just mentioned is that your product is a premium product, right? And so talk about like how do you place your product in the market. Where do you see is the competition, or where do you find your customer niche in that case?
Yeah, so I mean, for us, it's there's a few segments of people in here. We are very fortunate that our water is high in alkaline, so the pH level of the water is high, and alkaline there's a lot of talks about how good alkaline is for you in terms of your food, eating foods that are high in alkalinity, and drinking water, or anything that you can do to introduce alkaline in your diet that can help offset your acid consumption from coffee and wine and red meat, etc. So our first group that we generally target are people who are health conscious, who want to introduce healthier water with higher mineral content, but also are conscious of the alkalinity side of things, and want to add more to their body that is nutritious and not just any other water. So those customers for us are somewhat of an easier to reach customers because they value good products and they're willing to pay for it because they are more mindful of their health and are conscious of it. Then the other piece for us, as you said, when you introduced me, you made the point of the eco-conscious consumers as well, that it's not water isn't for everybody. So those consumers who are totally against single-use plastic and they don't want to have anything to do with that, with that economy. So they are the next targeted customer, and these customers also generally I find are people who would drink out of the tap and have no issues drinking out of the tap and would only buy out of convenience because it's convenient when you're stopping in BAM for the day or, are out and about with your friends and need a bottle of water versus always buying to drink.
Right. So you just touched a point, Saawan, where you said that to be into eco-entrepreneurship comes with a price tag, comes with a lot of responsibilities too. So with your company, Northwater, how are you managing all the life cycles, like sourcing the product, doing the supply chain, the branding, the manufacturing, packaging, delivering, doing the business development too? So, I mean, how are you doing all these things? Are you doing in-house? Are you outsourcing? Where is your company at this stage?
So we do most things in-house because it's we are the only ones in Calgary and I believe even in Western Canada with the equipment that we have that allows you to fill an aluminum bottle at this point. And so we bottle in-house, of course, and we have employees who basically take care of the full supply chain for us. We don't manufacture the bottles itself. There's no one in Canada currently doing aluminum bottles. So we have to import that. But other than that, everything else is pretty much done in-house. We've got a great team. We've got some part-time employees, some full-time employees as well, and some consultants, and we try to make it happen. And that's the life of a startup where you as a founder, CEO, or CFO, whatever your title is, you also are the person who's the janitor too. So, or the delivery person. I do a lot of deliveries myself. I do a lot of sales myself. So you end up wearing multiple hats because that's what you do in a startup. I don't think, you don't have the luxury to go get 100 people to start running your business for you. So you parcel out what you can where you feel that there's somebody else who can do the job better than you can or has, is a lot more skilled. And then you take on the rest of the roles that where you feel like you can save money because you can do it. Like, as I said, I'm also the janitor as well. So, and the driver.
Yeah, absolutely. With this entrepreneurship journey, you cannot just wear single hat. And what you say, I completely believe that. And tell me if I'm saying it correctly, walk the path less traveled.
Yes, that's right. Yeah, we do say that. We like to say that, take the path less traveled or walk the path less traveled because it's a harder path, right? The path that's always more difficult to walk on is the least traveled as well. Because it takes a lot.
Yes. Yeah. Because the taller you grow, or if you go on that path, it just becomes less crowded and you have much more opportunities, though it comes with a cost of working 10 times more harder than other people, and that is where the success lies. And I agree to that you just said. So when you talked about, and I really like it that you said that you're doing everything in-house, which is a lot.
Mm-hmm.
So saying that, how do you bring the team together? Because as a startup, it's important to have those people with you who focus with your same passion, who focus and resonate with your vision. How do you choose those people? Where do you find those people?
As you said, resonate with your vision. So those are the 3 words or 4 words, resonate with your vision, right? As a startup, that's what you look for. You want people who can share your journey, but also have, you can't have people working in a startup who are used to a very prescribed way of working. This is your job for the day, and this is what you have to do to get there. It doesn't work in a startup because unlike most businesses, it's a very fluid way of doing anything, because you don't know what you don't know. And every day is a new challenge because you don't have history, um, enough history to show you what it should be like, right? What you know, what to expect out of your day. So one of the things we look for are people who are okay to have a fluid day and don't necessarily need their day to go as they planned, and can take on what's coming their way for the day. So that's sort of the one of the mindsets we look for: people who are flexible, people who are willing, who are problem solvers. So we want someone who can solve the problem, but also know that is aligned with our vision as a company. And that's the most important part: having people on your team that are aligned with the vision of the company as to where we are going and how we are going to get there. And that is always the how is always a teamwork. How is never determined by me or Linda. How is always determined as a team. But
Right.
where we end up is something that's a team is a company goal. And finding people who can see themselves going there and being wanting to be a part of something bigger. When you come working for a startup, you're not going to get your massive salaries that you have had for so long. And so there's sometimes for some people it's a step back as well financially, but there's other incentives that come with it, whether it's equity in the company or just the very challenge and excitement of working on something that is a startup, right? So it's that.
Right.
So we look for people who also have that entrepreneur mindset.
Mm-hmm. And I completely believe that if you have to make something or grow something, get associated with a company at an early stage, so that when the company grows and you grow with the company, and it's not just the monetary gain, it's actually the knowledge. Because when I was working with a startup, the knowledge I gained from there was immense. I would have never been able to get that information in working in a very structured company or in a very structured ways. So I always believe like the people that you choose to work in the startup should have that kind of, and what you said correctly, an entrepreneurial mindset.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's kind of the very important thing to note, right?
Mhm.
Yeah.
And Sawan, now something what I want to know is you had an idea, you got a vision in 2018 for North Water, and then you found your co-founder. I would say you found your co-founder.
Yeah.
Like, how did you
Mhm.
find a co-founder? Because this is something that I normally hear from most of the entrepreneurs and the startup business, that they are the founders or they have an idea, but to match an idea with somebody with their same passion or with the same mindset, finding a co-founder, it's not an employee, it's a co-founder. How do you find a co-founder, Savan?
Yeah, so for me, it started with Linda and I met on the board of a charity. We used to be on the board of Calgary Immigrant Women's Association. And so we knew there was one thing that aligned us, and that was our values of wanting to give back, be better, create a better society, and be a part of a change, basically. And that started a friendship that later on became a thing of her. She was also working in oil and gas, and so was I, of creating something that was, you could be proud of to leave behind, so your children could see. She's got two little girls, and she wanted to be that mom that her daughters could look up to and say, yeah, I can be anything I want in this world, and I can be the change, and I can change things. I don't need to wait for someone else to do it. I can actually make changes to make the world better. So it kind of was that dialogue would go back and forth between us of, how do we create something? How do we leave a legacy behind? Of doing things that were going to bring us more excitement in our lives, but also having this thing of, leaving something behind after us. And so her and I used to have those dialogues all the time. And then when the idea of North Water came through, I approached her again and we started talking more about it, that, hey, this is something, is this something that would excite you? And sure enough, it did. But more than just exciting her, she became just, she became my equal and even more. Like she's put in so much work to get us here. Putting her kids to bed and then up till working till 1 a.m. Saturday, Sunday, and like it's been on vacation.
An entrepreneur.
Oh, she was born to be one. And so I could, I have to say that how you choose a co-founder or how you choose a partner, business partner, comes down to if you have shared values, makes a big difference. And if you both want the same thing at the end of the day. With Linda and I, we know we both want the same thing at the end of the day. And it's not about her, it's not about me, it's not about her ego, my ego, it's about the company. And it's easy for us to be in that place where we can separate ourselves and say, no, we're doing this at the end of the day. We both want Northwater to be successful because that's the only way we will be too. So it's easy because we both have that same value. We share that value. We both work hard. We both know, we both approach things very differently. So we have very complementary skills in the sense that when it comes to building something and trying to, our ethics and all that, it's the same. How we approach something is quite different. But keeping that, end goal in mind, it's not about us, it's about the company. So finding someone who can put aside their ego is you couldn't ask for more, because that person will always come back and work with you.
So yes,
it's very important. It's very, very important. It's a person you see more than your spouse at home. Let's put it this way, because with your spouse, you get the break during the day before COVID,
right,
and maybe hopefully after COVID too, yeah, where you both go to your respective workplaces and you come home in the evening and meet up in the afternoon or evening. Whereas with a business partner, you're together during the day. And if it's anything like Linda and I, if you're in a startup mode, you're on the phone till like 11, 10 at night, and it's not unusual, and Saturday and Sunday as well. So you end up spending way more time with each other, both directly and indirectly. So be ready for that, and be ready to be with someone who is flexible enough to do that with you.
Correct. Agreed. So you mentioned that you guys actually complement each other, and that is amazing. You guys are ready to make the sacrifices for Northwater, if I'm gonna put it. You guys you have one goal, like to make Northwater successful. So somebody with that kind of a mindset, because you knew Linda before. So you knew her working style, you knew how she is. It was not somebody new that you're onboarding, right? It's somebody that you could put your trust out there.
Yeah.
So Saawan, you mentioned that you guys are growing exponentially and you have everything in-house. So when it comes to choosing, or like eventually you would be hiring people. So when it comes to choosing people, or when it comes to hiring, who do you think would be the right fit for your company eventually?
So attitude over aptitude, right? Really, for us, at least, it's easier to train somebody. It's very hard to change their mindset. So someone who comes in with the growth mindset, someone who's agile, someone who's willing, someone who wants to create something and be a part of something that's growing, and be okay with the tomorrow of it. Because another thing about startups, not every startup is successful either. Our tomorrow could be anywhere. It doesn't necessarily mean we'll be around for the next 100 years. We may or may not be. And knowing that that's what you're working in, and you're working towards, of course, growth and everything else, but could go the other direction too. So it's having somebody who's willing to take that risk a bit more in life, willing to challenge themselves, because they know at the end, the reward is going to be way bigger than anything else, and they're part of something. So that attitude of wanting to be a part of a small team, wearing multiple hats, being ready to take on, and being ready to be part of something. So the entrepreneurial mindset has to be there to work in a startup, and that's something we certainly look for. I'm not saying you have to be an entrepreneur. You don't. I don't expect people to work the hours Linda and I put in. We don't expect that. But we expect people to recognize that it's not your 9 to 4 role prescribed at 9 o'clock in the morning, and it's going to go exactly that way. It's this people are willing to, shift the way they work and be able to just take on anything that comes their way.
Right, right. So when it comes to fulfilling your hiring needs at present, what kind of roles are you looking for eventually for your company?
Yeah,
That
so
might not be today, but eventually it will come up maybe in the year end or maybe next year.
sure. Yeah, so I mean, for us to be able to grow, we need to be able to have people who are sales people, of course, people who can sell the product. We're also looking at some point getting on someone who's going to be working with Linda. Linda takes on all the CFO role basically in the company. So someone who can help her on the finance side as well. Someone in the plant. We have a plant manager currently who runs all our operations. So someone who can work alongside him and be not necessarily a backup, but be someone who can um, work with him so they can take over each other's,
Yeah,
role.
power of
Um,
support, basically.
that's right. The succession planning has to be there for everybody because we all have, an expiration date, whether
Yeah,
it's you got to the role because that's what you don't want, or even as an entrepreneur, as a person who's invested and started the company, I could have an end date too.
right.
Um, it doesn't it applies to everyone, right? So
Mhm.
it's finding we need all to be cross-trained and have that succession planning in place. So roles basically to replace us all eventually
Mhm.
is going to happen. And then there's the other part of it is the marketing component, which is such a big thing. The e-commerce side of things, managing e-commerce. Right now we do it in-house with somebody, one of our team members. It would become a full-time role. The marketing role will be a full-time role that I
Right,
want someone to take on.
right, right. And Savan, what you said about hiring all these people, now I want to pick your brain here because we have seen a lot of job losses during pandemic than ever before. So let's say if somebody gets interested in the roles that you just mentioned, what qualities of people that you would look apart from having an entrepreneurial mindset that you said. So any qualities of people or anything that you want to talk about there apart from the hard skills?
As said, like people who are agile, people who are willing to work as a team. It's a very team-driven environment for us. So being able to be a part of the team, being able to, someone who is interested and intrigued in learning an entire business from start to finish, from the front office to the back office. Um, One of the things we pride ourselves in, at least, you know, I know for myself, I can run my production line, and I'm not an engineer. I'm not a person who's, I'm not very mechanically, not by any stretch. I'm not mechanically driven or minded, but I can run my own production line, and I take pride in that. So I know that if my plant manager tomorrow doesn't show up for any reason because he's not doing well or is taking a vacation, I can run my whole plant on my own. And so I want anyone who joins our team to be able to kind of go back and learn the operations because it's always fun. It's always exciting to know the impact of your role and how your role transitions into other roles within the company.
Oh, that's so powerful to have that
Yeah,
impact in the company and to be multitasking and to learn the whole business when you are doing a startup. That's the key. Great,
that's
great
right.
point. Yeah.
Yeah, and so that eagerness has to be there to be able to say, yeah, you know what, my role is accounting, but
Mhm.
I also once in 2 weeks I go and run a production line with the production team. It's
Right.
a bit of a break, but it also shows you things that you need to implement. Like for us, a lot of changes and a lot of implementation comes from being in the warehouse in the back of front at the back office and seeing
Mhm.
what is happening that's not going right, or where can we improve things, because operations and finance is tied together, very very much tied together. um, your inventory cycle, when do you need to order something,
Yeah.
to what your damages are, to any of that, and how do you know those things if you've never spent a minute at the back. So it's learning that. So someone who wants to not just be tied to their desk doing journal entries or doing just marketing, someone who's excited to go meet with our customers, go to a trade show.
Yeah, yeah, agree. And Sawan, there could not be a better time asking this question when you put all these pieces together, that you guys are having an in-house complete product life cycle that you are doing. Amazing team. You grew exponentially last year. So when we are now just finishing our Q1, where is Northwater at present, and what is the future of Northwater looking under the leadership of you and Linda?
Yeah, for sure. So we are fortunately, we're across Canada now. So you can find us anywhere from Vancouver to Quebec,
Okay,
Ontario.
let's thank you there. So let's say that Northwater is there everywhere in Canada, and is it in North America too?
So not as yet. That's the goal for this year, is to get into the U.S. markets as quickly as we can. For us, the highlight of 2021 was the listings across Whole Foods Canada. So that was big for us to be in Whole Foods and to be a brand that's in all their stores across Canada. So that was huge for Northwater for this year. And the goal is for this year to go into, we've got a lot of conversations happening with interested parties within Asia. So hoping to open the export market both to US and Asia as well, either 2021 or early 2022. So that's kind of the growth plan for Northwater. You mentioned the life cycle of the product and everything else, and I should mention to you that we in the company we try to have our own recycling program as well. So our bottles get recycled with the Alberta recycling or BC recycling or whatever your province's recycling program is, but we also collect our own internally as well to convert our aluminum bottles that are damaged and returned into hopefully a product someday. Maybe it's a bike, maybe it's another aluminum product. So we try to do that as well. So we're not there yet because we don't have enough, but the day we do. So we're trying to, the circular economy is important, and how, being a part of that, but closing the loop is the more important part, right?
And that's a great thought, because you're not just giving back to the community, you're also taking what you gave back and again giving back.
Hopefully, that's right. That would be a great thing to do, to be able to, we always joke about this, that it'd be nice to have like a few Northwater bikes made and giving it away to kids in neighborhoods where they can't afford it, or in homes that they can't afford to have bikes and things. So yeah, we're trying to, I think it will be a fun thing to do. And so we try to have some fun. It's not all just work. And
it's a great Saawan. Great thought. So now, Saawan, this is an important part of the show, is to share this mindset, because what you did in 1 year, 3 months, I would say, somewhere, was remarkable, like just amazing. So let's give back to the people who are the first time entrepreneurs, or yes, with this pandemic last year, there have been a lot of people who were shifting their career from job seekers into entrepreneurship and are starting business. So if they want to look for any kind of a resources, or if they want to use any kind of help out there that probably you guys have helped have taken advantage of, or maybe the resources that is available out there, anything that you want to share here, that what actually helped you, what is available out there, any tips for these aspiring entrepreneurs?
Yeah, for sure. So a good place to start is usually startup Calgary. If you live here, try startup Calgary. If you don't live here, then there's startup Calgary equivalent in other cities as well. Vancouver, I know, has one. Toronto, I know, has one. So it's always a good place to start there. Couple of reasons. They have a lot of used to, prior to COVID, of course, had a lot of meetups, but they still have a lot of virtual meetups today. There's a lot of online resources that you can find. And this basically allows you to meet other entrepreneurs, but it also gives you some ideas of, they have these crash courses you can take on building a business plan, to creating, where to source funding from, and all that. So I think that is a very helpful resource. The other thing I looked into quite a bit and have really appreciated the support of is Alberta government, Canadian government, both federal government and provincial government has a lot of resources available through the trade commissions. So you have uh, the development. So you have BDC, which is that also exists, which is an funding arm of the government. You've got EDC, which is the export side, but you have got the Trade Commission, Alberta Provincial Trade Commission, and Federal Trade Commission that are there to help you in numerous ways. They have, you can sign up for courses from e-commerce to how do you even start exporting if that's something that your long-term goal is to export, for example, creating a product to export. Many people start a business with the goal of expanding it across Canada and North America and across the globe. Well, Trade Commission is a great place to start for that. They train you on, you can get them to even help you find businesses to do business with. But the best thing is they help you verify businesses. So I get a lot of spam emails from around the world where people are like, hey, you're looking for investment money, and I want to import your product. I'm a importer of so and so from like in Middle East or something, or in UK, and you don't know who's legitimate and who's not. So those emails I usually send it to the Trade Commission, and they do the work for you to verify whether these people are legit or not. So it's resources like that on your own you can never do, because you don't have enough resources available to you to do some homework around that. So that's another good place to be. There's also things like Alberta Women Entrepreneurship, or they call it, so that exists. The Calgary Economic Development exists in Calgary as well for those who are Calgary-owned businesses that want to start a business here, and every city has their own. So a ton of resources in the startup community. If you just look up startup resources, you'd be surprised what people can find. So do your homework as much as you can and understand what it's going to take you to start a business. Understand the most important thing people tend to forget is the cost of capital, the cost of maintaining that business, because you don't want to be undercapitalized 6 months down the road or 1 year down the road. The cost of not being things going as you had planned. So what happens if you don't sell $2 million worth of product in a year? Then what? How do you sustain yourself? Right? But the more important thing is pricing. How do you price your product? Because if you're not priced properly, you will lose, or people won't want your product. So doing all that, and all those resources are available to people online, said through Startup Canada, Startup Calgary, BDC, EDC, number of places. Or find me, I'll help you.
Saawan, thank you so much for sharing those resources. I was actually making notes when you were talking, because those are the lot of things that is there, but we just don't know. Yeah. So no wonder you did an amazing homework out there. And that's the reason, that is actually the mantra behind your success. So kudos to that. And what should I say here, Saawan? You have given enough to the community. What you're doing is completely unparalleled. Like, you are way beyond. So is there anything that as a community, through this show, we can do anything to help you? Is there any ask that you would like to would you like to ask anything that's going to help you make you closer to your vision or towards your goal? Any ask that you have as a community that we can help and support you?
Well, buy local, support our product. If that's something you want to do, if it's a course you're behind, then yeah, support is great. Buying our product is great. The more consumers we can get trying our product, talking our product, the more it helps us as a company. We're going out to the public in not so long here through Canaccord to raise funds to expand our business. If that's investment is your way of wanting to come in, we're looking for investors at some point here too. And yeah, as I said, word of mouth helps. So promoting our product helps for sure. Choosing our product helps. But even for yourself as a person, make conscious decisions. It doesn't have to be North Water. any product you choose, support local as much as you can, make conscious decisions that know the impact of your decisions, especially when it comes to choosing from so much. We're a society that has nothing but choices. So make the right choice if you can and when you can.
So, Saawan, let's say if you want to purchase or buy your product, North Water, where we could find it, where is it available?
Sure. So I said Whole Foods across Canada. Yay. Blush Lane in BC and Calgary, both. We are in Santerra, not the two downtown locations, but in Keynote, Santerra in West Hills, and Santerra in Britannia. We are in Lina's Italian market across Calgary. We're in Federated Co-op in the province, Save on Foods, a number of Save on Foods, Safeway. And plus we're in smaller places too, like the Seed and Salt, which is a great little place that sells very healthy, delicious food in Banff and Calgary both. We are there. We're in Banff Springs, Fairmont Banff Springs Hotel, so you can find us there as well. We're in Una Pizza. We take outside. We are in Phil and Sebastian. We're in DeVille's Coffee and Hula. So we're in a number of places. And if you can't find us, then shoot us an email and we'll help you find a location.
And I'll share a story here. So after we reopened for the coffees during this year, I went to Phil and Sebastian and I saw North Water. At that time, I was so happy to see it because, it's just a product I know. I know Saawan. So resonating it personally, that kind of an happiness and emotional attachment that I got at that point was just incredible. And I couldn't stop buying that product, to be honest.
Yeah.
And I love that bottle. I wish I could show it right now, but I just love the bottle. And
yeah, thank you.
So yeah. I am so I'm so interested in knowing that with you, what you do is a day in your life of being an entrepreneur, like that crazy roller coaster.
Like today, you mean? Sorry. Yeah.
It's so interesting to know that. How do you cope yourself? Like, is there any, and this is for me, is there any mindfulness practice that you do? How do you keep yourself up, like with one good call, one bad call, one bad call, one good call, and then you have to have that hard skin on that, okay, today is a day over, tomorrow is the next day. And there must be some mindfulness that you practice. And what is that?
Yeah, so meditation. Start meditating. Meditation helps. It definitely helps me. I do my best to meditate every night when I go to sleep, but in the mornings as well. If I can start my day, it's great. Some days are easier to find that time. Some days, but it takes sometimes a 10-minute practice. I do journal when and where I can as well. But I try to incorporate healthy habits as much as I can. So starts with a good diet as well. Like I try to eat healthy as I can, cook my meals at home, and as much as I can do that. Work out. I make an effort to work out almost every day. There's few days I'll miss here and there. If it's a nice day outside, I'm going to go for a walk and do a bit of a workout. And my workout schedule is not crazy. It's not long. Sometimes it's as quick as 30 minutes or 20 minutes. Just whatever I can squeeze into my day or night, and then allows me to keep working or keep on going ahead with my day. But I try to be a lot more conscious. I started doing something which is actually a funny thing, but I took this thing on about how I dealt with my day. So what I started doing was I started writing it down as to how I dealt with my day, and if there was anything that in particular that bothered me. And if it did, I try to correct it the next day. And if I still come back the next day and I write the same thing, how I dealt with the similar problem, then I know I have a problem and I need to correct it. So I try to incorporate things like being more aware of just who I am, being more aware of my actions, my words, my levels of frustration, my emotions, to just how I conduct myself. So mindfulness is huge, mm-hmm. and it's a huge part of my day for sure. Yeah. It's also about keeping my calm and keeping myself neutral, because mm-hmm. of there are many people within my team, that I deal with on a day-to-day basis, and I don't necessarily I'd never believe in bringing my terrible day morning to them. So it's always being conscious of who I'm with, where I am, and as said, meditation makes a huge difference.
Mm-hmm.
Allows me to, yeah, just centers me and grounds me, at least when the day ends. If I have no control of the day, at least I know when I'm going to bed I have had some calm.
And what you said is that I think you actually do conscious meditation because you are very focused what you're talking about, and journaling is super. It actually because it's funny that what we wrote down today, and after like a couple of months we revisit and we were like, oh, we really solved it. It really
Yeah.
happened. And knowing that the magic that we can actually do and support, like for me, it actually helps me to go to the next steps and even make my brain solve a problem that I couldn't do it during my daytime.
Yeah, and it's the other thing is also that I have found that has been very helpful is I go back to times when things didn't work out the way I was planning for it to. And that's happened a lot, has happened so many times for us that, I was planning it to be a certain way for something and it didn't. Even when we were trying to get a space at the very beginning, when we first started when we started looking for a space in 2019, like April, May. And we had some letdowns there too in a space we wanted to go into and we didn't. And then we ended up where we are. But when I look back in all of those things that I was planning to and it didn't work out the way I wanted to, I always have this conversation with Linda that I'm glad that didn't work out, because had that happened, we wouldn't be here today or we wouldn't have done this instead. So I try to focus on that as well as much as I can. I
Yeah.
try to think about it. So when things are really bad for me, I
Mhm.
try to think of all the other times when things felt so bad and the outcome of that was actually so positive that I wouldn't want to go back to how I thought it was supposed to be. And
Right.
that has really allowed me to sleep many nights without thinking about things, because I think, yeah, I know it's going to work out. I
Mhm.
just know it's going to work out. So it's having, and what I do is also, I mean, thinking is one thing. There's another thing. Sometimes you need to take action to
Yeah.
make it happen too,
Yeah.
right? But I try not to delve in the negative. I
Yeah.
try not to be stuck in it,
Yeah.
and I try to move forward, because I know, as I said, there's enough history I've had in this short period to say what felt like it was a disappointment turned out to be a blessing in disguise.
Oh my God. Yes, yes, and yes to all those things. And for my next question, there is nobody better than you to answer this question, which is a really important part of our show is what is the impact? What is the legacy? What is the impact that Saawan wants to create? What is the legacy that Saawan wants to leave behind? So what would that be, Saawan?
You know, I'd like people to know that there's nothing impossible. If you want it, if you want it bad enough, you can go after it. And it takes a lot of work and a lot of effort, but it's not impossible. So you can be the change. If something bothers you in the world, you can be the change. You don't need to sit and wait for someone to create the change for you. And that's what I'd like to be known for. I'd like to be known as the person who's created the change that I wanted to see, but also someone who can hopefully someday have many other women look at me and say, yeah, you know what? There's no boundary in coming from a small, there's no barriers to making yourself something in this world, no matter where you were raised, no matter where you were born. We all can find those opportunities, and we all can succeed. We all can be whatever we want to be and whoever we want to be. And we can drive the change we want to see. It's one person at a time, but it's doable. And that's really how I want to be known as someday.
It's great that you said this because when I started this show, this is exactly the phrase that I used is that be the change you want the world to see it. And I'm glad that we resonate on that point, and I'm glad that we are doing this show, Savan. So thank you so much for sharing that mindset. It's just amazing. And to be honest, I decided this show to go into a different flow, but I honestly barely looked at the questions that I had prepared. So I really, really enjoyed this flow, Savan. And before I forget, please let us audience know that if they want to reach out to you or if they want to connect to you, where and how they can find you.
Yeah, for sure. So even though the water we have is called North Water, our website is www.drinknorthwater.com. North Water was taken, so we had to take Drink North Water. There's an info email in there, and I get all the info emails. So if you ever feel like asking a question, or if you feel like taking just wanting to share something, the entrepreneurial journey is very, very lonely. So if you feel like, what, I just feel like talking to someone who can tell me how I can do something, or if there's anything I can help with, please find me there. And I will. I make an effort to spend even 15 minutes a week or 30 minutes a week doing exactly that, because that's the least I can do to support somebody else. Many people have come out and supported me, and it's just my way of giving back to society and the community we live in. So yeah, reach out to me, info at drinknorthwater.com. Our Instagram is the same, drinknorthwater.com. And LinkedIn is Northwater Canada. So yeah, many ways to get a hold of me.
Thanks, Saawan, for sharing that. And I couldn't see more support than here in Calgary. I would be honest that people are so connected and they are always there when you reach out for help. They are always there. And that chain actually makes it the entrepreneurial city of North America, actually.
Sure,
So,
it does. Yeah. Yeah, you're right. I mean, the number of startups in the city are really high, and you can see that per capita, it's startling. It's one of the highest in Canada for sure, and I think it ranks like number 5 or something in amongst like startup grind. I know there for all their startups that they have within their realm. Um, Absolutely, I agree. It's a very supportive city. It's a place you can really build a network, no matter how new or long, how new you've been since you've moved here to how long you've lived here. It doesn't matter. It's easy. It's a very forgiving place in terms
yeah,
of
true.
just wanting to start somewhere and learn and grow. So absolutely, you're right. If there's anything, it's a community you can very much depend upon, and there's a lot of people who are going to come to your help.
Yes, it is a community that we can actually rely on, to be honest.
Mhm.
So, Saban, before I finish this show, is there anything that I forgot to ask, or is there anything that you want to share before we end the show?
Well, first of all, I should have put my blinds down a bit more because I can see this. The sun is all over. So excuse that. Um, no, thank you so much for having me. It's great to talk to you and be a part of this. What you're doing is amazing, highlighting entrepreneurs in the city and also just sharing their story. I think we all have a story to share, and it's harder to go one on one sometimes. So platforms like this make it easier for everyone to come together, share the story, grow the awareness. But also, if anyone can ever find any encouragement in any of these, it's great. It's because of people like you that I think these communities exist. So it's fantastic to be a part of it, and I'm so grateful that I was given the opportunity. So thank you very much. Very humbled.
Honor is on mine, Saman. So thank you so much for sharing those kind words. I really, really appreciate it. And I would just say that Savan is an amazing human. So feel free to reach out to her. She has been an amazing support to me. So feel free to ask questions, support Northwater. So thank you so much, Savan, and honoring us to be here on the show. I really appreciate that you shared your story because I completely believe that our power is in our story. And thank you for sharing that. It was really powerful.
Thank you.